change. Climate change refers to long-term change in temperature and weather patterns around the world. While these changes can occur naturally, human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and accelerating this process significantly. So for the first policy problem is lack of coordination and enforcement. That means different sectors are not working together effectively, which result in poor coordination and weak enforcement of policies. The lack of cooperation between sectors has hindered proper implementation and enforcement of the policy in place. The second policy problem is economic and political challenge. That means growing the economy puts pressure on the environment, will leading to more air and water pollution. The focus on economic growth can overshadow the needs to protect natural resources. And the last policy problem is unequal impact of climate change. That means economic progress should not come at the expense of vulnerable communities who need protection from pollution and fair change to benefit from green jobs. Supporting vulnerable communities with green jobs and protection is key to balancing economic growth and environmental sustainability.
So let's move on to the next slide, which is the policy objective and its strategies. My name is FARRA HANI binti Muhammad NAZRI, and I will walk you through the structure and intent of Malaysia's National Policy on Climate Change 2.0, known as NCCP 2.0. This policy reflects Malaysia's strengthened response to the climate crisis. It is structured around 4 overarching national objectives, supported by 5 strategic thrusts, and implemented through 15 well-defined strategies. In this session, I will guide you through how these objectives are connected to the trusts and strategies, and how the strategies are designed to translate into real change. Before we begin, it is important to understand why the National Policy on Climate Change 2.0 has 4 objectives but 5 strategic thrusts, and why the thrusts are not numbered in the same order as the objectives. The 4 objectives represent what Malaysia aims to achieve, such as achieving net zero emission, mainstreaming climate action, enabling implementation, and also building resilience. 5 strategic thrusts are the means through which these goals will be delivered. Each thrust supports one or more objectives, and some objectives require action across multiple thrusts. Therefore, the thrusts are arranged by priority and function rather by direct numerical alignment with the objectives. Also, there are 2 important terms used throughout NCCP 2.0, which are key actions and activities. In ASEAN, key actions are strategic level commitment. They are what the government commits to do under each strategy, and each one is coded like ST3, S1, KA1 to identify its place within the framework. Activities, on the other hand, are the detailed, practical, and steps taken to implement those key actions. They are the programs, projects, or policy reforms that give life to a key action on the ground. In short, key action define the what, while activities deliver the how. Malaysia's first national objective is to meet its climate targets, especially the aspiration to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. This objective supported by strategic thrust number 1, which aims to strengthen climate governance and institutional capacity. Under Strategy 1.1, the government has committed to creating a comprehensive legal framework, and its first key action is coded as ST1, S1, KA1 is to formulate a Climate Change Act. The Act will provide a legal foundation for national climate responsibilities, emission targets, and institutional coordination. As part of this activity, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability is leading the legal drafting process, which includes stakeholder engagement, benchmarking against climate laws in other countries, and drafting clauses on enforcement, monitoring, and institutional mandates. So, under Trust Number 1, there is a Strategic 1.2 that focus on building an effective institutional framework. So, the key action for this strategy is SD1, S2, KA1 calls for the operationalization of a climate change entity. This is being implemented by setting up a permanent agency under the National Climate Action Council, with authority to coordinate climate action across federal and state agencies. The government is in the process of formalizing this body structure, staff and legal authority, and reporting responsibilities. For strategic number 1.3, deals with enhancing institutional capacity and data systems. So, its first key action is SD1, S3, KA1 is to establish a national greenhouse gas inventory repository. This action is being carried out through the development of the integrated digital system under the NRES, which centralizes emission data from all sectors, provide tools for data analysis, scenario modeling, and national reporting under the UNFCCC. Moving on to the second national objective, which is to mainstream climate action into development decision-making for a more sustainable economy and society. This is supported by Strategic Trust Number 2, which aims to achieve low carbon development. Under Strategy 2.1, the government seeks to reduce greenhouse gas emission in key sectors. The first key action is coded as SD2S1KA1 is to promote energy efficiency in industrial processes. So, the government is implementing this by mandating ISO 50001 Energy Management Certification for energy-intensive industry, offering technical support for compliance and linking certification to eligibility for tax incentives. So, for Strategy 2.2, focus on increasing carbon sinks and reservoirs. And its first key action is SD2 S2 KA1 is to protect and restore mangrove forests and other natural ecosystems. This is being implemented through the National Mangrove Replanting Program, which involve reforestation of coastal areas, monitoring of restoration sites, and community involvement in seedling cultivation and planting. The activity is co-funded by the federal government and international partners such as UNDP. So, the third national objective is to catalyze the means of implementation for climate action. This includes financial system, capacity building, and access to technology. This objective is closely linked to Strategic Trust Number 4, which focus on enabling a green economy. The first strategy under this trust is Strategy 4.1, which aims to stimulate green economic growth through market-based instruments. Its first key action is SD4S1KA1 is to develop a carbon pricing roadmap. This is being implemented through public consultation and policy research coordinated by the Ministry of Finance and NRES, with a view to introducing an emission trading schemes or carbon tax. Pilot sectors have been identified and readiness assessment are underway. So for strategy number 4.2, under this same trust aims to scale up domestic financing and investment for climate action. The first key action is SD4S2KA1 is to catalyze a national climate action fund. This is being implemented through a finance governance framework that brings together public funding, private sector investment and climate-linked international grants. The fund will support projects related to renewable energy, adaptation and sustainable agriculture, and proposals are currently being evaluated by a technical committee. So, the fourth and final national objective is to undertake risk-based planning to enhance climate resilience, particularly for vulnerable communities, ecosystems, and infrastructure. This is addressed by Strategic Trust number 3, which prioritizes adaptation and resilience. Strategy 3.1 commits to implementing risk-based adaptation planning. Its first key action is ST3S1KA1 is to integrate climate risk into national and subnational development plans. This is being implemented through the mandatory inclusion of climate vulnerability assessment in all new structure plans, with technical guidelines and GIS mapping tools provided by NRES and Plan Malaysia. So, Strategy 3.2 aims to maximize co-benefit through integrated approaches. Its first key action is ST3S2KA1 is to mainstream biodiversity into adaptation planning. This is being implemented through biodiversity assessments at the state level, linking conservation areas with flood mitigation infrastructure, and integrating ecosystem-based adaptation into spatial planning. So, Strategy 3.3 promotes the use of best available science and data. Its first key action is ST3S3KA1 is to develop national adaptation data portals. The implementation activity involves creating a web-based dashboard that houses hazard maps, case studies, and decision support tools. This portal is accessible to planners, researchers, and local governments. So, for the last strategy, which is strategy 3.4, supports research and innovation in climate solution. Its first key action is ST3S4KA1 is to fund research in climate modeling and adaptive technologies. The activity involves issuing competitive research grant through MOHD, MOSTI, targeting innovation such as drought-resistant crops, flood early warning systems, and low-carbon transport prototypes. The final strategic trust, which is strategic trust number 5, is cross-cutting and supports all 4 objectives. It focuses on fostering collaborative action and whole-of-society engagement. Strategy 5.1 aims to strengthen Malaysia's role in international climate process. Its first key action is SD5S1KA1 is to enhance participation in the UNFCCC and related forums. The activity includes increasing Malaysia's negotiating presence at COPS, improving technical capacity for reporting, and also ensure timely submission of national updates. For Strategy 5.2, promotes bilateral and multilateral cooperations. Its key action is SD5S2KA1 is to leverage international finance such as the Green Climate Fund. The implementation activity includes developing bankable project proposals, submitting concept notes through the National Designated Authority, and also aligning project pipelines with GCF criteria. For the strategy 5.3 seeks to strengthen domestic partnerships. Its first key action is SD5S3KA1 is to establish national stakeholder platforms. This is being implemented through the NCCP Stakeholder Dialogue, an annual platform that brings together government, private sector and also civil society to share progress and build new partnerships. Finally, Strategy 5.4 focus on community awareness and preparedness. Its first key action is SD5S4KA1 is to roll out national public awareness campaigns. This is being done through multimedia campaigns like #Iklim Kita Masa Depan Kita, school-based climate education programs, and also community-based projects that promote resilience, such as agroforestry in rural areas. To conclude, Malaysia's national policy on climate change 2.0 translate high-level national objectives into strategic thrusts which are further broken down into actionable strategies, each supported by key actions and real implementation activities. Understanding this structure shows us how policy turns into progress. Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is MAISARAH binti MAZLAN, and today I will present about the key strength of Malaysia climate policy under MPCC 2.0. So for the first one is the policy set clear and ambitious target, including achieving net zero emissions by 2050. This gives Malaysia a strong goal toward the country with global effort like the Paris Agreement. So it also encourages green technology economic growth in new industry and attract international investors. So before this policy, climate action were uncoordinated, but now there are a clear roadmap with strategy for renewable energy, energy efficiency, and forest restoration. So for the second one is the policy integrates climate consideration into governance at all level and sector. So this environmental sustainability is no longer an add-on but a core principle guiding decision. So this ensures that the economic, social and environmental issues are addressed together. So previously, economic growth was prioritized over climate concern, but now climate action is embedded in national planning through law and institution, creating a unified effort. So moving on to the next slide. Moving on to the third strength is the policy emphasize coherence and alignment by mainstreaming climate prioritized into national development plan. So this breakdown silos and promote coordination across ministries and agencies. So before MPCC 2.0, the climate effort was scattered and inefficient, but now the whole government work together to link sustainable development with climate resilience, improving resource use, policy cohesion, and accountability. So this approach also support inclusive growth, ensuring no one is left behind. So for the last one is the policy focus on proactive risk management by prioritizing risk-based planning to address climate vulnerabilities and long-term impact. So instead of reacting to climate problem after they happen, Malaysia now regularly conduct risk assessment and scenario planning in key sectors like agriculture and urban planning. So for example, it helps farmers prepare for changing weather and support building climate resilient cities. So this forward-thinking approach strengthens Malaysia's ability to adapt and build resilience against climate risk. So overall, MPC 2.0 create a clear, integrated and proactive framework that help Malaysia move toward a sustainable, resilient and inclusive future. So that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Before I continue the presentation, my name is IFFAH ADILAH. I would like to present about weakness of national policy on climate change 2.0. While the national policy on climate change 2.0 is a major step forward, it has some weaknesses that need attention to ensure its success. First weakness, there is a weak coordination between national, state and local government. Before NPCC 2.0, climate action was scattered with no binding framework to ensure cooperation. Even now, the policy's success depends on the pending Climate Change Act, and without it, enforcement is inconsistent with agencies focusing on their own priorities instead of shared goals. For the second weaknesses, Malaysia's heavy reliance on oil and gas revenues create resistance to renewable energy. Before NPCC 2.0, this dependency slowed the adoption of green initiative. While the policy acknowledged the need for green financing, it lacks consistent funding, and the transition to a low-carbon economy remains politically sensitive. Last but not least, resources are not distributed fairly. Poor communities, especially in rural and coastal areas, face the greatest climate risk for receive the least support. Urban areas continue to get more attention and funding. Even after NPCC 2.0, there is no clear plan to prioritize these vulnerable regions. To strengthen NPCC 2.0, we need a better coordination, reduce reliance on fossil fuel and fair resource distribution to ensure the policy benefit everyone. That's all. Thank you.
The first recommendation is strengthen interagency collaboration through institutional reform and legal mandates. One of the clear weaknesses of NPCC 2.0 that was not given much attention is the fact that collaboration and cooperation between different levels of government is limited and thus not efficient. These weaknesses came as the current governance system itself is quite unclear in the terms of jurisdiction, unassigned obligations, and the weaknesses of the communication between the levels of the government. To overcome this problem, the government should create a new coordination councils that acts directly under the authority of the Prime Minister's department. This council should act and function as a high-level councils that consists of representatives from different levels of government, such as relevant ministers, state government representatives, locals, authorities, and others. This council must be empowered and covered by law so that it has the power to develop a system that can be implemented throughout the government, such as standardizing reports, coordination meeting, implementation on and creation of protocol, and joint process evaluation. Other than that, the expedite message of the Climate Change Act is also crucial, as it has been referred to NCCP 2.0 as forthcoming legislative tools that remains pending. With activation of this act, it will define roles and accountability mechanism among the levels of government in order to prevent the misunderstanding between them and to prevent the hands of attitude. The recommendation is market reforms and just transition framework to reduce fuel dependency. In the current era, Malaysia's economic and energy system still heavily depends on fossil fuel, which not only retards the country's shift to a low-carbon development, but it also causes internal obstacles to ambitious climate policy reforms. The over-reliance on oil and gas revenue has created a problem in political action and policy innovation. This happens especially in the times of economic or political instability. To overcome these obstacles, Malaysia must implement several plans such as subsidy reforms on fossil fuel, but it must be clear that the intention of the reduction is to decrease the dependency of fossil fuel product. This can be done especially in this modern era where electric vehicle is an option. By gradually reducing the subsidies for fossil products, the government can use those savings to invest it in a renewable energy development and research and development in clean energy. Other than that, the government should start a just transition framework, which is a process of transitioning to a climate neutral or clean energy economy, while ensuring no individuals or communities are left behind. The framework should include the establishment of green jobs and skill initiative so that the workers affected, such as oil and gas workers, have the capability and jobs after the transition. With the application of just transition, Malaysia can be less dependent on fossil products, not only in the consumer level, but also to the business itself, as the petroleum business can be changed into a clean energy businesses, such as a nuclear energy business. Government also can be flexible with the company that is transitioning or even adapting to the low carbon practice, with initiative like tax exemption or reduction as a way to promote the policy goals. By doing these steps, Malaysia can unlock the full potential of NCCP 2.0 without affecting the economy and political stability. The third recommendation is promote equitable resources allocation for vulnerable communities. One of the most never-ending issues in Malaysia's climate response, both before and after the application of NCCP 2.0, is the inequitable distribution of climate adaptation resources, where a place with higher climate issues and risks like rural, coastal and low-income communities often receive insufficient support, even though they are the one that have the higher rates of climate impact, such as flooding, sea level rising and others. Meanwhile, urban, which have a better surrounding, resources and even political interest, have a greater investment than those in need. In order to overcome this imbalance, NCCP 2.0 should incorporate a more fair and balanced approach in its implementation. A fund to support adaptation measures should be created for those undeserved areas, where the money is used to finance community based on infrastructure such as flood barriers to reduce the risk of disasters. This fund should be given thoroughly by referring to a clear criteria that prioritize interventions based on the level of risk they were exposed to. Additionally, NCCP 2.0 should integrate minimum adaptation service standard in order to ensure all citizens, regardless of the geography and even income, had the access to essential protection such as an early warning system and emergency response system, as it can help and determine for their survival. With a thoroughly inclusive and equitable system, NCCP 2.0 vision of building a fair society can be realized. Conclusions: the National Climate Change Policy 2.0 and NCCP 2.0 represent a significant step forward in Malaysia's climate governance. It sets out ambitious targets, integrates climate considerations into national development planning, and aligns well with the existing strategies. It emphasizes on forward-looking risk management and cross-sectoral coordination, lays a strong foundation for building resilience and sustainability. However, despite these strengths, the policy's effectiveness is currently held back by several key challenges. The challenges such as weak interagency coordinations, ongoing reliance on fossil fuels, limited access to green financing, and unequal distribution of resources across regions and sectors, all undermining NCCP 2.0 implementations. To truly unlock the potential of NCCP 2.0, this structural barrier must be addressed. This means undertaking meaningful institutional reforms, correcting market distortions that favor carbon-intensive practice, and by ensuring a fairer allocation of resources, especially for those vulnerable communities. Only through these efforts that we can ensure the NCCP 2.0 delivers not just on its promises, but on a just, inclusive, and sustainable future for all Malaysians. That's all from us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hakimi and I'm from Group 1. So my question is, why does Malaysia needs its second version of its national climate change policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Ime Hakimi, for the questions. So, basically, the original national policy on climate change, launched in 2009, laid the foundation for awareness and early coordination, but lacked legal mandates, strong institutional structures, and also a clear alignment with the Paris Agreement and net zero targets. Since then, climate change has intensified and global expectations have shifted. NCCP 2.0 responds to these changes. It updates our national direction to align with current science, incorporates commitment under our nationally determined contribution NDCS, and provides a clearer, more actionable, and a roadmap for both mitigation and adaptation. It also addresses implementation gaps from the first policy by introducing key actions, monitoring frameworks, and financing pathways that make climate goals achievable, not just aspirational. Thank you.
Hi, I am Riedina from Group 2. And now I want to question Group that how does NPCC 2.0 ensure implementation and not just policy rhetoric?
Thank you, Ying, for your question. To answer your question, the implementation is at the heart of NPCC 2.0 design. Each of 50 strategies in the policy is supported by multiple key actions, which are then translated into real-world activity across government agencies. So these activities are specific, measurable, and often linked to existing law, budget, or sector plan. So for example, the Climate Change Act is being drafted to legally mandate emissions reduction and institutional coordination. So regular review and coordination under the Majlis Tindakan Perubahan Iklim Negara further ensure that this policy lead to measurable change on the ground.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mufatihah from Group 3. So my question is, what role do state government and local authorities play in NPCC 2.0?
So answer for that question is, state and local governments are key to the success of NPCC 2.0, especially in implementing adaptation and land-based mitigation strategies, while climate policy is coordinated at the federal level. Land use, forest and local development planning fall under state jurisdiction. To align efforts, NPCC 2.0 promotes subnational climate action plan (CAPS), mandates the integration of climate vulnerability assessment into state structure plans, and support technical capacity building through platform like Plan Measure. In addition, funding from the National Climate Action Fund will be made available to state implementing projects in line with national objective. So, this policy promotes vertical integration, federal leadership with state-level execution.
Hi, my name is Nadira. I'm from Group 4. I want to ask, how does the policy address the needs of vulnerable communities? Thank you.
Thank you, Nat, for the question. So, one of the strengths of NPCC 2.0, it is strong focus on inclusivity and equity. Vulnerable communities such as a low-income rural population, coastal village, and indigenous groups are particularly exposed to climate impacts like floods, droughts, and sea level rise. The policy addresses this through dedicated strategies like 3.1 on risk-based adaptation and 5.4 on awareness and preparedness. Key activities include early warning system, community-based agroforestry, and microfinance support for women and youth-led adaptation projects. The goal is not just to protect these communities, but to empower them as agents of resilience with access to data, funding, and training that strengthen both livelihood and environmental stewardship. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Zulfaqar Zaidi. I am from Group 5. So my question is, how will the private sector be involved in achieving the policy goals? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. For the answer, NCCP 2.0 positions the private sector as a key partner in achieving climate goals. This is based on strategies 4.1 and 4.2 to promote carbon pricing, green procurement, and sustainable finance to drive private sector engagement. The initiatives under the policy includes voluntary carbon markets, green tech initiatives such as GITA and GUIDE, and the strengthening of ESG frameworks. These tools support businesses in aligning with national climate priorities. NCCP 2.0 also encouraged the greening of supply chains and build capacity among MSMEs to adopt climate-smart business model. In addition, industry leaders are engaged through platforms like NCCP 2.0 summits, where they co-develop practical solutions alongside with the government stakeholders. This approach ensures that the private sector plays an active, strategic and continuous role in advancing Malaysia's climate agenda. That's all for my answer. Thank you.